Hi, welcome to the Please Bear With Us podcast, where we talk about family, friends, faith, and anything in between. All right, so we got a special guest slash returning member today.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. It's been probably 7 months, if not longer.
Yep, so Scott is with us, and it's exciting for sure.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to step away from the house and be back. I mean, the baby's almost, I guess, a little over 5 months old, so getting up to, almost lifting it's being able to sit by himself and all that, and the wife's mom and her are taking the kids to the park if it doesn't storm, or indoor park maybe, but it's nice to be able for her to get some help, because that's the reason I haven't been able to be back, is I don't like to leave her at home with the two kids, especially when she works from home with the baby all week, then stick her again with just the baby
Right.
and another kid. But yeah, it's good to be back.
Yep, so I figured we'd start off the day with a heavy hitter.
Okay.
So I have wondered, can a Christian be demon possessed?
Be demon possessed? I don't think so, but I think it can be oppressed.
Okay.
I know you're it's splitting hairs kind of, but not really. I don't think a Christian, if they have the Holy Spirit and all that kind of stuff, cannot be possessed. Now, I think that they can, not really unintentionally, but I think they can invite them in and be taken over until they maybe realize it, and then, more or less eject them. But I know they can be oppressed. I mean, I know Job wasn't a Christian, but he was, a man strong in his faith and all that stuff, and he was oppressed by Satan. I mean, he lost everything, but he never did get possessed, but he definitely got oppressed.
Right. That's where I kind of wonder, because I'm like, there's my internal battles and stuff seem like it is oppression from within, I guess. So that's why it's like, I guess oppression is better than possession, is how I'm looking at it. But so I probably phrased the question a little bit wrongly.
And say, because when I think of demon possession, I think of the stuff you hear about, like kids killing other kids and all that stuff, and parents killing their kids and all that stuff, and then saying, voices told them to do it and this and that, or even not remembering doing it at all. I feel like that would be possession. But oppression is just, constant anxiety, feeling rejection, not feeling worthy, not feeling like thankful for anything, and just feeling down all the time, I think is more oppression than depression or possession.
One of the things that I go to in just questioning this is King Nebuchadnezzar, with once he said in his heart like that he was basically God, in terms of like he established his kingdom himself. Like he went for 7 years to be on his to eat like a beast, to be a beast. He grew long hair, claws and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know Nebuchadnezzar's true like soul in terms of like salvation and stuff like that. But God was definitely like, no, I'm going to give you up for a time until you learn to remember me.
I don't recall from that story if Nebuchadnezzar was a believer before that, or if God was just like, here you go, just it is weird, because it's not like, I don't know, because the God just told him like, from now on you're gonna walk on all fours and eat like a beast, and
it was like 7 years of that.
But it's just crazy that God can be like, I'm gonna make you do whatever you don't want to do, and then
That's
after a
that's why I
while, then you come
wonder,
back. Yeah.
because that is another reason is like, can you be given up for a time and like still be saved, and yet you're given up to your own desires, and that allows the because like when I forget exactly how the verse goes, but it's like temptation then desire then leads to death eventually.
Hmm.
Like I forget how exactly how that one goes, but um,
The way I think of the possession portion is, especially with Jesus's age and after, is the guy that when they got off the boat was running through the graves and all that stuff and cutting himself, and the demons after they got delivered, they asked Jesus if he could send them into the pigs.
right,
So they had to ask permission to be sent somewhere. So like, did that guy or people or the two guys, did they invite the demon in? Because they almost had to be given permission to go somewhere rather than just take him over.
well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, because on one hand, is that the oppression where the demons had just picked, like, this guy's vulnerable, and
But he
boom.
was possessed, not
Yeah,
really oppressed,
I
because
mean,
because when they even
well, I'm
said
saying
in there,
oppressed to be possessed.
oh yeah, I don't know. And maybe that's why Job was such an interesting story, because he could easily just gotten beat down so much that he was like, just take
Curse
it
God
over or
and
do
die.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, even that's what's crazy too about when you think about like suicide and stuff is Job had nothing,
yeah,
like to the point where he had boils and stuff, and the dogs were licking him and all that stuff, and skin falling off, but he still never gave up. So who's to say that if he did kill himself, I guess God knew the end. That's why he allowed Satan to
right,
tempt him, so
right.
he already knew the ending outcome. But I mean, that maybe that's the same way with that demon possessed guy, is God already knew the outcome, and he was just to glorify God to the other towns. When the guy, I guess that's why he told the guy he couldn't come with them. He's like, go back into the, was
Like,
it the
tell your
Decapolis or
family.
something, and
Yeah.
tell him what God done for you today. But well, speaking of demons and stuff, that's what my question I want to bring to you is, there's been it's big in the news the last couple of weeks is aliens.
Okay.
Supposedly
Yeah.
they've got, whistleblowers come out and say they've got extraterrestrial aircraft. They're using the technology to create things and all that. Do you think that they're, as far as extraterrestrial craft, do you think they're just from another country? Do you think they're from outer space? Do you think aliens are demons? Do you think they're
That's a good
actual?
question. I know there's a lot of illegal ones right
Yeah,
now in the
yeah, for
United
sure.
States. But yeah, I really think that there are the Nephilim, or however you
Oh,
say
yeah,
it.
Nephilim,
So it's they may not have all gone away, and it wouldn't surprise me that, like, so this is an interesting one about like Sasquatch,
yeah. Oh yeah.
or and so does he roam the earth still? I mean, it literally goes back to Nebuchadnezzar. Like, if Nebuchadnezzar can look like that, then it's very possible that there's another person on this earth that could look like that.
Well, that's like, I mean, they're still constantly finding new creatures in the ocean and all that. There's always species being discovered. Who's to say that there's not a species out there that looks like a Sasquatch?
Yeah.
That,
Mm-hmm.
especially because I think it's so hyped up now, that everybody wants to see a Sasquatch. So even if they have to fake it, then they
Right.
talk about it. And I know, like, there's some creatures that were around decades ago, millennia ago, that don't exist anymore. And
Well, I think part of it too for me is like, at one time, the NBA wasn't around, and the reason I say that is, like, you didn't see like 7 foot tall people everywhere.
Oh,
then the
yeah.
NBA came along, and it's like, oh, everybody's 6'5" or above,
Yeah.
and so, and if you're 6'5", you're short in the NBA. But yeah, they all started gathering in one place basically. But yeah, so it to see like 7, 8, 9 foot tall people in this day is very rare.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It doesn't mean
but
they don't exist. Yeah.
exactly, and I feel like there was an example in like Texas here recently, I think is where it was. I could be wrong, but they literally were like, "No, we saw something," and it was like
Oh, Las Vegas. You're
it
talking
could
about
have
like they
been.
called the police. Like there are
Yes.
out of like not of this world people walking through our backyard.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
know there was even that article last week or 2 weeks before about Middletown, Ohio, where there were videos of lights in the sky that were doing circles, and then they just zoomed off like faster
Yeah.
than anything. But
So that one, I'm like more convinced is like,
could just be a few drones up there. And
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
drones, and that's all. I mean, with how advanced technology is now, and how the United States at least looks at government and stuff like that. Like usually, so I've heard anyways that our technology that's in the public is like 10 years behind what
Mm-hmm.
it's military or whatever in terms of what they've researched. Now, I do know that military usually doesn't get the nice things all the time. Like it has to be mass produced and all that stuff, so it's usually not always the best.
Right.
But the but like some like drones, like you literally the attack drones that you see in the movies that are like they're they're piloted by people
Yeah,
like let's
hundreds
say
of miles away.
hundreds of miles
Yeah.
away. Yeah, they're
Mhm.
literally using an Xbox controller
Yep.
to drive these drones, and then they maybe bomb an entire village and then go to bed.
Yeah.
Like it's just insane.
Yeah. There's no actual like direct
Yeah,
killing being done. You're miles and miles away.
yeah, and you're safe at home,
Yep.
and that's kind of what's crazy about like, I mean, you watch Top Gun and stuff like that, and it's like there's really not a need anymore for.
There's no need for actual putting people in danger in the front lines of all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of going away. So,
Mhm.
um,
My take on it is, I think demons can. This is gonna sound weird, but demons can take the form of aliens. However you want to see them, is how they'll appear to you. I mean, they even in the Bible it says they can appear as an angel of light.
right?
You know what I mean? So, an angel could come to you and say, here's the new gospel or whatever, and Paul even warns, like even if an angel of light comes to you and say, here's the new revelation, not to believe them. So I mean, who's to say that a demon can't show up as a 7 foot tall alien that you see in
Yeah, I mean,
all the drawings with the big, huge circle eyes and the pointy
Yeah.
chins and all that stuff? But
big brains. Or
yeah,
whatever.
big brain. Yeah, with like Mars Attacks or something like that,
Yeah.
or a xenomorph or anything
I hated
like
that movie.
Oh man, it messed with my mind as a kid.
Yeah, it did me too because like there's one scene where they step on an alien's brain and just gushes out everywhere. I literally had like trauma from that for like
Really?
ages. Yeah, because it freaked me out.
Mine was I think it was when he bit off the girl's finger or whatever like that.
Yep.
That messed with my, because I was way too young to watch it when I did. And I was
Yeah,
like,
me
oof.
too. I think it was on like really late, not on like Cartoon Network or probably like Comedy Central or something like that. But I was still up at a friend's house and everybody
Oh.
else had like gone to bed and I was just flipping through the channels and
It was
I
on.
was like, because at the time it was like, I think there was like a pretty girl or something that is in the movie and then her head gets chopped off and she's like alive with her neck up or something like that.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And so it's just like that movie was messed up. And
Isn't that a Tim Burton movie?
I have no idea.
Say the director's famous. I can't remember if it was Tim Burton or somebody like that, but what I think about actual aliens, I heard somebody say that if there were actual aliens, they would be everywhere. they're either nowhere or they would be everywhere. And then someone else said, the closest galaxy outside of the Milky Way is the Andromeda Galaxy, and it's 25,000 light years away. So if they were traveling the speed of light, it would take them 25,000 years to get here.
Right. Well, that's the thing is we have planets, and if we can't discover everything on our own planet,
Yeah.
like let alone just going over to Mars or something where there's the possibility of life. I mean, I don't know. Like, I definitely think it's angels or demons for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I
But then even if aliens do exist, does that, does that take away the truth of the Bible?
I would say it doesn't, because
I don't think it does either, but some people argue that, if there's other life outside of Earth, then does that take away God creating but God created the heavens and the earth, so the heavens are space, it's the spirit realm, it's everything, the sky, it's everything that's not the earth, so who's to say he hasn't created other...
Yeah. I mean, does the Lord hold true in all of those situations? I mean, the answer is yes, because he's God. Like, he doesn't sin, but he can do whatever he wants in terms of, like, creating things. And, I mean, look at how many species of fish there are and stuff like that.
Insects and everything, yeah.
Yeah, so, and, like, just the human mind, how it works, and you see, since we're talking about it, like, all these horror movies where, like, The Fly and stuff like that, where he just transforms into his head as a fly head.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, The Black Lagoon or something like that, where it's just a human fish.
But then if their aliens are sentient beings and they have, like, free will and everything, is... Like, I think that's the argument, is there a way for them to acquire salvation?
I mean,
because if God's triune, then would there be another incarnation in alien form?
It depends on their role, in my opinion, because if they're if they're considered more like angels, then technically, like, based on Scripture, he made man a little lower than the angels or something like that. But also at the same time, is it lower or higher?
They talk about Jesus being lower than the angels for a time, so because he came down as a human, yeah.
Yeah, and so then for that, and then he arose and was back to his rightful place on the throne, and so if I don't know, Jesus has appeared to people in dreams and stuff like that, and so I believe that he could appear to anyone in a dream, and if it is a life form that is not of this earth, then it's just like a movie where the fish guy is talking to you. It'd be the same thing as, like, maybe Jesus looks like an alien to them, but I would say he still is in human form.
Well, yeah, it's wild, because then it goes to where those two people were walking to after Jesus' resurrection and stuff, where the two guys were walking, and they talked to Jesus for hours, and it didn't click until he broke the bread, and he more or less took the veil away from their eyes, and they noticed it was Jesus. So who knows what he looked like during that if they didn't recognize him.
Right. I mean, Mary Magdalene, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was the gardener, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just immediately thought differently of him. And, I mean, her being the first one to see him as well, like, you would think, I mean, that or the fact that he was literally unrecognizable when he died. Like,
but he took his perfect... When you get, like with us, when we get resurrected in the last days, we get our perfect bodies where, I mean, we may look the same.
Yeah.
But who's to know what age we'll be in our perfect form, like Jesus could be, and could have been in his 50s, you know, if it's
Yeah, or
perfect. Yeah,
20s,
it's
or
20s,
yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't matter
Well,
necessarily.
like, and with babies that die before they're born,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? If they're in heaven and they get resurrected in the last days, who's to say what they're going to look like? They're not going to be babies because they wouldn't be able to walk or talk or anything like that. I mean, they could be
Yeah.
in their 20s.
I mean, that's where the book, The Shack,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just like, I think it does a good job of just um, showing people like how heaven could look. I know there's a lot of controversy with that book as
Mm-hmm.
well, but
Well, I think I think the heaven is for real. I think they made a movie of it. I think
yeah,
that's what it is, where the little boy talks about seeing his sister or something like that, and he didn't know that the mom had a miscarriage. But in the movie, the sister was 10 years old or something like that, and
yeah,
saw her running around and playing. So, you know,
I don't
who's to
know.
say, who's to know? But yeah, I feel like, well, then you've got, you know, that crazy show that everyone loved for the longest time, that Ancient Aliens, you know, where they talk about Egyptian
Yeah.
paintings and all that stuff depicting aliens and spacecraft and all that stuff. And
I mean, that's where you wonder, like, is that just their
yeah.
imagination? Or, because, like, Egyptians had so many gods and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And so it's very, like, I feel like, especially with dreams, like, the mind can create, how do I say it? Like, things that aren't real. Like, you could, I'll tell you about a dream I had, since we're on the topic. Is like I truly dreamed that I could see, like, I would go up to a mirror and I would start to see myself, and then I would start to like be stretched and see like a demon,
Oh,
and
wow.
so it freaked me out because then I'd wake up and be like, okay, what did I just witness?
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason that um, that crosses my mind is like, um, demons or Jesus could put thoughts into your head of, like, there's some people that wake up, and I think Muhammad maybe like had a dream, and that's where he wrote down the Quran or something like that. Could be wrong here.
Yeah, I
um
think from what I understand is he went into a cave
yeah,
and he was given the revelation or whatever by Michael or Gabriel or something like that. But
yeah. And
supposedly, yeah.
so but that's also like Joseph had
Oh, yeah.
dreams,
Mm-hmm.
and um so it's so for me, if like, kind of like how God with Job was like, you can do certain things to him, just don't take his life.
Right.
um it makes me wonder, like, with me personally, I'm just like, is this something God's allowing for a time, um to either get me to see something, or because those dreams are like freaky, because
Mm-hmm.
um it's one thing to look at a mirror and see yourself, and then another thing to like see something coming out of you, and then wake up and be like, just brush that off like nothing happened.
Yeah.
And so so that one sticks with me. And there's times where it's like, I literally, for my dreams, I'll like have an instance of like, um, I will feel like I'll wake up in a dream and then wake up in real life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the
As,
hard part is when you wake up, you're still questioning,
yes,
like, am I still asleep? Am I still awake?
yes. And so that's kind of what got me on the topic today, is because like, because of that dream, I've remembered it, and I was like, can a person like be demon possessed, because like the demon was like inside me in the dream, and I just questioned it, because like I know Jesus is there,
Mm-hmm.
but either am I giving my room to the demon, or am I exactly like, it's just the fight, the struggle that, um, like me being bipolar or something like that. Like, I hate being bipolar in some ways, because it means like, in my connotation, it's like you are complete opposites at times. And so on one hand you're a great person, then the next moment you're like a horrible person. And
Which one's the real one?
yeah, I mean, and so it's very difficult for me at times because I'm like, 85% of the time I'm normal and not bipolar. And then there's the 15% of the time that I am, and then I'm all of a sudden like getting in legal trouble and just not having a sound mind leads you to consequences. And
Can you tell, like, oh, this is not right, like something is not right, or
so
like with bipolar? I know with manic you can't really tell, but
yeah, like with bipolar, I definitely question it now. Where I used to not before. Like I used to be like, no, I'm not sick, and now I like every day I wake up and say, I'm sick. What do I do to make sure I'm good for the day?
oh right,
And so, like that's one of the things that, on one hand, it's like you were sick and then you got better, and it's like, yeah, I did. But at the same time, I have to realize that I'm sick every day, because if I just think I'm better, I'm better, I'm better, then I'm gonna think maybe I don't need these meds because I'm doing good, and that's not how it works. And because for my brain, I need the medicine that I'm on to keep me balanced. And there's a lot of people that say go holistic, and I'm like, I can't.
yeah.
My brain does not make that chemical, and even if it did, like I wouldn't go holistic because now, if nothing else, my brain is now addicted to that like set of chemicals that it's needing, and so since it's getting it from a medicine, it may not ever make it again, and so
Yeah, I don't know if the Bible's ever or scriptures ever mentioned, not because some, there's been parents and stuff that have been charged for murder and stuff by not taking their kids to the hospital or anything like that, and just trying to pray over them and this and that for disease and stuff, and then the kid dies. They're like, well, we're trying to let, if it's God's will for him to live. I'm like, no, there's doctors, medicine, like even, I can't remember which letter it is or what epistle it is, but Paul's even like, I think it was to Timothy, like, drink some wine for your stomach, it'll help your stomach, and it's just that correlates to me like medicine. If you have to take medicine to offset something, then who's to say it's not God's will that you take medicine for the rest of your life? It's better that than get yourself into trouble or
death.
Yeah,
like,
death. Do something dumb enough to hurt yourself, or cost someone else.
Yeah, like for me, speeding was one of my my issues that I had, and it's like, it takes one person pulling out, not seeing you, and all of a sudden your life is gone, their life is gone, and then if you wreck on the highway, then whoever else is behind you, their life could be gone. And so it's very clear that for me that it was like I was blessed by not having those things happen. And so it's like God wanted me alive, and that's a big praise, but at the same time it's a big like responsibility as well, because it is it's just difficult at times to think like, man, like I wouldn't be here right now, and then that would cause my family depression and all that stuff, and
we wouldn't be doing this podcast or
yeah,
like that.
And so it's really been an eye-opening experience for me, and so, but yeah, so I if we go back to aliens for a second, I've definitely seen hallucinations, and that was just with like delusions, hallucinations, and I truly believed I was seeing like just people. But if I can just see people, then I believe it's possible for people that are, let's say you like horror films, and then you go delusional, or you take some drugs or something like that, then it's very possible you could see all sorts of things. And like I've had dreams of Freddy Krueger being in my dreams, and like
Oh,
that's
wow.
his domain.
Yeah.
And like it's I have had good dreams as well, but not I don't remember them. But the bad dreams I like vividly remember.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it's wild how that works.
yeah.
Like you wake up from the good dreams and you don't remember it, 10, 15 seconds later, but the
Yeah.
horror dreams, like you were saying with the demon in your face, you could remember that for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, it gut checked me too, because it's like, am I doing okay?
Right.
Like,
But
because
then you may never forget it because you dwell on it all the time too,
yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, like one of the things I struggle with is an internal battle between living in the world but not of the world. I love my friends that I hang out with that are Christian and saved. I also love my friends that I hang out with that are not. But the ones that are not, you're subjected to a lot of different worldviews. And those different worldviews could be like they say things that are considered derogatory or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to love them through that in order to get to the surface and possibly make life change. And I think Jesus does that. Like that's his bread and butter to say. But
yeah, that's the hard part is, they, like Jesus, he dined with sinners and hung out with sinners and stuff like that, but he always told them to repent and turn away from their sin. He loved them, but he didn't affirm or agree with everything that they did. He's like,
right.
repent and turn and believe the gospel. But, where's that for us in this day and age? Like, yeah, you can hang out with them, but, man, it's super awkward and super uncomfortable to be like, hey, man, I know you're saying this and doing this kind of stuff, but, I'm supposed to love you, but that doesn't mean I'm going to affirm.
Right, right. And that's where there's part of me that's like I can relate in some ways, because it's like, man, I'm human, and so it's like, yeah, I get that joke, and it was really funny. It was a little bad, but it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other times where I'm like, man, like this is depraved.
Yeah, like it's not even like it's. You could see how it would be funny to some people, but you're like, that's not something you should joke about for one thing or two. I mean, you shouldn't restrict them from telling it, but you're like,
that's like I struggle with. So there were a ton of memes made of this recent the submarine that
the Titanic submersible. Yeah.
And so like one was so I find some of them funny because it's just like you can't do anything about it, and I feel like dark humor is a way that people get over it.
Yeah.
But my cough drop's wearing off. I apologize. I haven't felt the greatest, but I think it's allergies, and so yeah, trying to get through it.
I'm not sitting 6 feet away. So.
Yeah, we got our social distancing in basically, but yeah. So the submersible was driven by a controller. Now, I really don't think that's that big a deal in terms of, I mean, as we talked about earlier, like drone pilots are using controllers to fly planes and stuff. But at the same time, like
it's $250,000 a ticket.
Yeah, and they're using like a Logitech controller from
like you get from Walmart or something.
Yeah, exactly. And so people are like saying, like, one of the memes I saw was like a guy like throwing off his headphones and rage quitting and like throwing a controller, and then it shows the next scene is that it hit the glass of the like he's inside the sub and it hit the glass of the sub. Yeah, and then everybody's just looking at him like, what? And then it is like, it's because you usually see that gamer rage quit and throw the controller, and then it like hits a wall or something. So there are funny ones,
but then it's making light of what, 5 people or whatever, 6 people, however many it was.
That's like 5, I think.
That got more or less squished to death.
Yeah, I mean, they said it was pretty instant.
Yeah.
Because the pressure that they were at and stuff like
I
that.
say some
But
of the videos of what the equivalent of like an oil drum barrel or whatever, being twisted and all that. And I mean, hopefully it was instant, because that would not be a good way to go.
yeah, no, it. I think they said if there was like one crack in the hull or anything like that, that the water pressure would cause it to like destabilize, and so everything in there would be like a bomb, and
Hmm.
so it would. I don't know. I mean, I truly don't know how they passed, and I hope it was instant.
Yeah.
Because
I know there's like the young kid that wanted to break the Guinness World Record for
oh
doing the
really?
fastest time for a Rubik's Cube underwater and all that stuff.
No
Like that
way.
was the only reason he went, is to do a Guinness
Yeah,
record.
I heard he really didn't want to go at first.
Yeah.
Like he was like 19.
Yeah, he was a young kid. Yeah.
And yeah, so
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, yeah, you see all the memes and funny jokes about it and stuff like that, but making light of people losing their life. But
yeah, it's hard.
then, I mean,
And
there's thousands of people that die every day.
yep. I mean, it's hard to imagine life without jokes as well, but just like tasteful. And you can't, I mean, that's part of like where I'm at with my friends is like you can't just harp on somebody the whole time where that's how they're getting over it or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you can't just be like, "Well, you shouldn't make that joke because I don't like it." And it's like doesn't hold water to them.
Yeah.
And no pun intended, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
But see, that's just another way to get through it. But yeah, so I don't know. Like for me, with my friends, I definitely I love them to death. They care about me too. Like they know, like he's the Christian of the group. So it is. It's one of those things where they like if my nephew's playing games with me, I'm like, hey guys, my nephew's in here, and that's kind of the cue of like, please don't cuss, please don't talk about the things you normally talk about.
Keep it
like,
PG-13 at the worst. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the main goal, and then they do apologize when they slip up, which is nice. When they're with me or my nephew, and I mean not me, but like my nephew. Like I'm an adult. Like I am okay with like listening to what they say because they're adults too, and that's just how you work with it. And I'm not holier than thou. Like it's not that I'm perfect in any way, shape, or form. It's just I try to be more Christ-like because I want to be in this world but not of this world.
Yeah, that was one of the hardest things for me to do is, because I've only been saved for a couple years now, and, I would cuss, F-bomb this, F-bomb that, but, it took me a couple months of consciously trying not to cuss to not do it anymore, but now, that I've got a 3-year-old and stuff like that, she's hanging out with her friends and all that stuff, it's good that I don't, because I'll take her to a family party for people that cuss all the time, and I'm like, if she picks up on this and just, even if she doesn't know what she's saying, but just regurgitates it later, you're like, holy cow. You know, but some people think it's funny when kids cuss, which I don't understand why.
I don't know. I have my moments where, like, one time my friend was, his baby was like 2 years old, and this other guy that was with us at the house was like, well, crap, but he didn't say crap. And then the first word out of this baby's mouth was crap. And it was just, at the time, it was funny. But I totally understand what you're saying. Like that baby had no idea what he was saying. But when it's, like, in common language, like, I'd say by 3, especially, like, they're talking.
Yeah, they know what they're saying.
Yeah. Like, they hear it where it's, I mean, common verbiage. Like every other word is this because that's how their parents speak or whatever. Like it's very difficult, especially since cussing it's getting more common, I would say, but it's still like considered like I don't know, like it's still considered more adult. So you don't like cuss on TV necessarily. Like cable TV, you do a little bit more. But
Yeah. I know, like even PG-13 movies now in America and stuff, you can have one F word.
yes, mm-hmm.
Which, why one? Why not? Why not just leave it at 0?
Yeah,
You honestly, they have to make a movie and put one F-bomb in.
right.
You know, like what's and would you put 2 F-bombs? It automatically makes it a rated R movie. It's
Yeah,
it's goofy. Well, I'm like, I don't even notice that I don't cuss anymore. But I mean, it's, you know, you're taken aback now when people say the F-bomb every 2 or 3 words. But, you know, human beings are able to talk and hold a significant conversation without cussing all the time.
right.
Like our movie directors and, you know, movie writers and stuff, are they able to write a movie without all the cussing?
Yeah, like there's like comedies where it's like people are going off the cuff the whole time, and the object is to make you laugh. And there's a lot of times where cussing is like awkward,
Yeah.
and so it makes you laugh or it makes you uncomfortable, or and so there's some movies that try to go for that, like, and you can tell it's like over the top, and you're just like, dude, like I came here to watch a movie, not like listen to all this crap.
Yeah.
And but I feel like that's where it's overdone. There's people in this world that, like a majority of people that aren't believers, that are just like, it's common. And the ability for them to differentiate between, like, you know, there's the F word that has like 50 different meanings at least. And so it's very easy for them to use it because it just means so many different things. And like, what's crazy is a lot of times people are able to catch them. Like if you mean it one way, they usually like, yeah, I know what that means. And then you use it another way and you're like, I know what that one means too.
Yeah.
And so it's just one word. And the English language is pretty crazy for that. But
It's impressive, yeah.
yeah. And so like I struggle with that. Like one of my friends is Canadian, and I'll say like, he'll be like, do you want to play this game? And I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And he, for the longest time, he was like, dude, I thought that meant you don't want to do it. I was like, no, like it means I do want to do it. Like I just am thinking about it. Like I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, yeah, we can do that, and that's how it goes. And so, or I say like, sure, and then like have a dramatic pause afterward or something like that. And he's like, I totally thought that meant you don't want to do it. And,
Yeah, like you'll do it reluctantly, but you don't really want to do it. Yeah.
But I was like, man, that's just how we talk in this state or whatever, because it's that's like people saying, well, yeah, but no.
Yeah, like yeah, no, or no, yeah, or stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It totally makes it's really like dialect from where you're from.
But with the cussing and stuff, even when I did cuss all the time, I still didn't cuss around kids. Like, you know, I had enough self-awareness that I was like, maybe you shouldn't say certain things around kids, you know, because they pick up on all that stuff, and you don't want to be the one like, oh, you know, Uncle Scott or whatever told me this, you know, and thought it was hilarious or something like that. But then, you know, if your kid does accidentally say something, do you laugh at them? Do you not laugh? You don't really scold them because they don't know what they're really saying.
Right. But if you laugh, they may think it's okay to say, which is not necessarily
kids,
true.
They like to make you laugh, so they would just say the same thing over and over again.
Right.
And,
right.
You know, it's especially when they're my daughter's age, and if one thing makes you laugh, they'll do it 100 more times, and you're like, okay, you know, enough's enough. You know, because we watched Frozen the other day, and there's one. Have you ever seen Frozen?
Yes, I have.
There's one part where, you know, they shove the carrot in Olaf's face, and it goes all the way in. And he's like, I look like a little bitty unicorn or something like that. And she did that, and I cracked up for, I don't know, for whatever reason, but she's probably done it the last 3 or 4 days, no doubt 100 times.
Yeah.
Just because it made me laugh the one time, you know, and after that I'll force a laugh or whatever, or laugh if it's timed right. But you're like, and if you laugh at a cuss word one time, then who's to say they won't say it
Right, right. Um, trying to think of what else. Like, there's a lot of influence that like I feel like there's like cuss words and then there's like worse than cuss words.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the dirty words or something like that, and it's like if you're not careful, that'll be really prevalent in your mind. And like for me, um, I do struggle at times with um, like there's a game that my friends play. It's called Phasmophobia, and it is literally like I don't know what phasmo means. It's like scared of phantoms or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, but it's basically like conjuring. Like you
Oh,
go
wow.
like ghost hunting. Like so you go and there's like Ouija boards and like you bring in crucifixes and stuff like that. And literally in the game you're like talking like, "Hey Bob, are you there?" And it just like freaks me out. Like and they play it
Yeah.
like it's nothing. I mean, they don't have the same spiritual ethics. And so I try to um, hang out with him, but when they start playing that game, I'm like, man, I'm gone. Like
Mm-hmm.
I like even though it's a game, like I don't mess with that.
Yeah.
And
Well, Ouija board's just a game too, and
right,
even people that aren't necessarily Christian, even if they're just spiritual, that's the new
yeah,
thing is people don't want to fool with Ouija boards because you're inviting
yeah.
on spirits into your house and all that stuff.
And I mean that's the thing is like people are like it's more of a puzzle game instead of
Mm-hmm.
because you're just like you have to use a Ouija board to find out his location or something like that. But I'm like, man, like I struggle with. I mean, me being bipolar and having delusions and hallucinations when I was in mania, um, like that crap would affect me
Yeah.
like hardcore. And I never did dabble in that stuff, and it still like freaked me out. So just imagine like that on like 100 times scale.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially if you do it every day
yeah, I
or
mean
every
they
couple
do,
days a week. Yeah, it's
and it's
taken
one of
so
those.
lightly.
And I tell them, I like they're like, "Hey, you want to play?" And I'm like, "Nah, man." And I give my reasons why. And I guess I fail in some ways because I'm not like it's against my. I mean, I tell them it's against my beliefs, but at the same time, I don't give like, um, maybe I do. I just feel like I fail like to give proper reasoning, of why. But it's it's one of those things where like I can play like a shooter or something like that where it's just like like there's one called Battle Bits right now. It's like Minecraft but you shoot
Oh
people.
yeah, I've seen videos of that.
Um,
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun and like I don't have a struggle with that. Like, but you get into I struggle with some zombie games. Like there's just too graphic and stuff like that for
Oh yeah,
me.
yeah. It's too realistic.
Yeah, and finding that balance is really hard. And then there's like my nephew, and it's like I have to filter whatever he's playing um, through my filter as well because I don't want him to be like my sister lets him play way more games than I do.
Hmm.
Um, and he has VR, and so some of his game like there's one called Green Hell, and it's a jungle. Like that's why it's called what it's called. And it's great until you get to the Amazon people that are there, and they're like, it just is freaky. Like they're cannibals or
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
and
You have to make it dramatic. You can't just have someone walking around the jungle. Yeah.
right, yeah. I mean, it's like they're voodoo or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody asked me about. I mean, games have so much junk in them because they want that, like, they want that factor of like scary or whatever to
Got to be edgy. You got to have people talk about it. Like even if
yes
it's to offend Christians or whatever else, you're like, let's put it in here and just offend somebody, and people will talk about it and get the attention out there. Like, if this offends Christians, and I'm all about it. And
right
yeah, more like horror movies, and there was one where a nun, I guess I don't really want to get into it, but Christians fly off the handle about it, but then it got the movie so much attention that otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, and that's where you're like, why? Like, why would you do that? Why would you make a movie like that? And
even if I wasn't religious, it's still
you're still
weird.
Like
it's
sacrilegious.
Still,
like it's evil to the core, and you don't have to be religious to figure that out.
Yeah, like I'm not Muslim, but I wouldn't do anything sacrilegious like that to any of their symbolism or.
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably have a higher chance of dying.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, that's one of the things.
They don't hold anything back. Like I don't know what happened to it, but it was a Netflix show or a movie. It was called Christ's First Temptation or something like that, and it was a movie about Jesus having homosexual tendencies and stuff like that, and lusting after another man and stuff like that. And I guess they base it off of like, the disciple Jesus loved and stuff like that. Like John and Jesus were lovers or something like that. I'm like, for one, where's that coming from?
Yeah.
For two, why?
Yeah, it's just Satan.
Yeah. But then, they pulled it from Spain, somewhere where like Christians firebombed the production house, and they pulled it, but Christians aren't called to do that.
Right.
But then that's the only way you make a change if you do that. So it's hard to really, you let God handle the revenge, handle the justice, all that. It's hard to balance,
You may have to keep talking for a second.
That's fine.
My throat just went through the grinder.
Yeah, I know they got like, now they're making comic books and stuff about Jesus coming back and being a superhero, and he saves the world with Superman or whatever superhero it is, and they're making him imperfect, and able to make mistakes and all that. But now non-Christians are even noticing, and like, why is it always Christianity that's being dumped on?
Gene Simmons from Kiss. He was like, when Tim Tebow was really getting razzed, he went on to The View or something like that, and they were razzing Tim Tebow, and he's like, it really sucks that Tim Tebow's standing for his faith, and we're all making fun of him.
Yeah, he's not hurting anyone.
Yeah, and it really like shut some people up. But that's Gene Simmons. Like, that is a guy that, like, people were like, Kiss, Knights in Satan's Service. Like,
well, even the Rain, what's his name, from The Office, the guy that played Dwight in The Office and stuff, and he had tweeted that the Last of Us TV show like that, there was a guy on there, a preacher on there, was reading the Bible, and he's like, as soon as I saw that guy quoting the Bible, I knew the way Hollywood works that he was going to be the
evil guy,
the bad guy for this show. And he's like, yeah, sure enough. He's like, why is it always Christianity that's always, the bad guy? He's like, if you look at it objectively, you understand, because you don't want to be called anti-Semitic for making fun of Jews. You don't want to be hurt, I guess, if you do something against Islam or Muslim, something like that, because, they won't. They're called to stand up for their faith any way possible, but Christians, they're just called to turn the other cheek and let God handle the justice in the end, and so they can do whatever they want and know that the only thing we'll do is talk about it and maybe boycott, maybe picket, but we're not going to hurt anybody. I guess if you're a true Christian, you're not. It's just tough. I mean, you hate to see Jesus' name and stuff and our Savior dragged through the mud in such a way, but in the end times and on the day of the Lord, he'll come with a sword and
it'll be worth it.
Yeah, and he'll cut everybody down, and it'll be wild. Let the birds eat them, and
I mean, that's what's scary about Revelation is it's not pretty.
No. Well, I'm doing I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm leading a class tomorrow at church, and for one of our friends, Matt, and I'm doing it on propitiation and Jesus' sacrifice for God's wrath and stuff like that. And one of the things is God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit are all in perfect unity and perfect agreement. So the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit were all in agreement on our redemption, but they're also all in agreement in condemnation. So they say, Jesus loves you and this and that, but in the day of the Lord, if you're not a follower of Christ or a believer and had the blood of God so you're able to stand in righteousness in front of him, he's going to judge everyone, and it's going to be scary. If that's what you believe, he's going to. They were saying at one point, the blood is going to be tall enough to get to the bridle of a horse.
Yeah.
Which, he's going to cut everybody down. It's crazy, but that's not on us. That's all we can do is trust in him. And
yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like when it's revenge, like we're not supposed to do anything about it because like who knows? Like that's the part for Christians is like we get reviled, but sometimes that leads to somebody's repentance later on in life. Yeah. But for Christ, when that day finally comes, he knows exactly who's following him and exactly when the last person that followed him is done. And so like there's going to be people out there like that's one of the things about my friends that I hang out with is they're like, hey, I know I don't serve because like he's like, I'm trying not to be hypocritical. Like he struggles with his past and like not in the same way that a Christian struggles with their past, but he's just like, I still do some of the things I do in my past, so I'm not going to say I'm a Christian. And because I don't want to be, not because he doesn't want to be labeled, but because he just doesn't think he's right with God. And I was like, well, on one hand, like I totally understand that, but on the other hand, like God's got grace for that too.
Yeah.
And so I explained that to him, and on his own, he said, like the other day, like he's like started praying again and stuff like that, and I was really happy for him because he goes through phases where, just like all of us, where he's like, I don't know if God's real, I don't know if what I'm doing is right. Like for a lot of men, like struggling with pornography is something that I mean, it talks about people that are like sexually immoral not getting into heaven, and that's really an interesting like for men it's and with women too, I would say, but that is a bane, especially since like you can be from normal to in temptation into committing temptation, sin or whatever in 30 seconds.
Yep.
I mean, or less.
It's so easy.
Yeah. And so that's where it's like, it's really hard because like God has grace for it, but he doesn't want you to continue in it either.
Yeah.
And
but then, God knows our heart. So like if we're trying to battle it, then, we do the best. I guess not really the best we can, because we need to lean on him.
Right.
But if we're being, I don't know how they said it, but, iniquity, I think, was that what he said? Where, like, if you know it's a sin, but you still continue to do it willfully,
yeah,
then, that's not a great thing. But what I consider as, like, sexual immorality is basing your whole life around it, like, that's your thing is
just, it could be food.
Yeah.
I mean, if all you do is eat and that's all you want to do and that's all that you feel like is pleasurable to you, then that's just the same, like gluttony or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
like,
putting something above. Well, even the one, where they're like, well, what if, set that 70 times 7, where if someone comes to you every day and apologizes and repents and then does it again, you're to forgive them. And it was a parable, that's the way, I take it too, is if you do something, and you turn away from it, but then you do it again, God's there to forgive you if you ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because there was a guy I listened to, and he says something that cannot be gained by moral upstanding cannot be lost by immoral failing. You know what I mean? Like, because we don't gain God's grace by our morality or how we act, so we can't lose it based on how we act.
Yeah, I mean, there is none righteous.
No. None.
None. So
We all fall short.
yeah. Well, this has been great. Really good talking to you. I forgot to tell you guys that Joey is not here. He was in a softball
He's
tournament.
just been relatively quiet today.
Yeah, he's been very quiet today, which is not usually Joey at all.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's where Joey's at. He's at a softball tournament, and I think he won his first game, is what
Nice.
I found out. But it's kind of stormy here, so if they're sliding, it's into mud.
Yeah, so I guess as long as there's not lightning, they can still play. So
Yeah, and but yeah, so that is. I think that's a good place to end it.
okay. I'm hoping I'm able to come back more often than once every 6 months. Check in on Thanksgiving next time and see how it's going.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is definitely something we can. Maybe you can talk to people that are like with your wife, like her mom or something like that, and just make it a weekly thing or something like that, possibly without putting too much effort on them necessarily. But
Even if it's like once or twice a month would be good, because she already keeps her Mondays, and then we got signed up for something else at church, so she's going to do them Wednesdays.
Oh, okay.
So Monday, Wednesdays, and then Saturday mornings would be a little much, but
Right.
I guess Tiffany would still be there, so it wouldn't be too bad. But
Yeah.
I just feel bad the reason I don't ever do it. But
we're
it's been great.
thankful for the times you do get to do it.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, and I love it. I look forward to it. I mean, I reached out to you about it earlier in the week, and since then I've been looking forward to do it. And it's always fun, so it's nice to catch up too, especially because we don't really meet every week for our small group or anything like that anymore.
Yeah, during
so.
the summer.
Mhm.
Yeah, small group's done, but that'll kick back off soon. I mean, 2 months, I think.
Yeah, I think August, September, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all right, guys. Well, thank you very much for listening. For all our mistakes and all of our positive ones as well. Not our
And
mistakes,
hopefully we're not
but-
too untheologically sound.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're not
Yeah,
just spouting out nonsense and you're basing your theology on what we say. Please don't do that. Research everything yourself.
Yeah, please research yourself, because that is we're not all knowing by any means.
We do the best we can with what we're given.
Right. So thank you all, and please bear with us.